and we can move on to the car sales on tab 2. Again, just like on tab 1, I have changed the numbers over here, so my numbers will not match yours, and you will just need to follow the process and not the numbers. Step 1. Juanita sells cars for a car dealership. Her pay is based on the number of cars she sells each month. She wants to take a couple of weeks off for vacation and wants to find the month when car sales will be slowest. Step 2. Identify variables and assumptions. Again, like before, I'm going to let your group work through the input and the output variable together and not give you those answers. But I will read number 2. Juanita assumes that the number of cars she sells per month will follow the same trend as national car sales. She wants to create a trend line to predict the number of car sales based on the month. She also assumes that this year's sales will be similar to last year's sales. Determine the input and output variables for this situation. I will give you a hint that the input and output are labeled here. You just need to decide which one is which. We have the number, or the month number, and the total number of car sales. All right, step 3. Juanita finds this data for the number of car sales for March through February of last year. Create a scatter plot of the data, then determine which type of trend line is most appropriate for this data. Add the trend line to your scatter plot. If you have some questions about creating a trend line, you can go ahead and click on this or continue watching. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight the information, insert a scatter chart. There we go. Move it into the appropriate space given to us. And because I would like these labeled, we'll go into chart design, do a quick layout, and add in some, I want these axes labeled, but I don't want the legend or the key on the side. And you can go ahead and label these with your input and output. And then we want to insert a trend line. So I'm going to click on one of these data points, right click, add trend line. And then again, we want to see the equation. We will be using that, and the R-squared, because that will help us determine which trend line to pick. Again, I need to make this just a little bit bigger so we can see in the tutorial, and move this down so that we can decide which one we're going to use. Okay, again, like before, we could pick a very complicated trend line that will hit all of these dots, data points, by going up and down as many times as needed to hit all of them, and get the R-squared up to like 100% or even 90, something like that. But we want our equation to be as simple as we can, with the R-squared being as close or as the largest we can. So right now R is only at about 2.2. That's like saying about 20%. So it's not really hitting a lot. We could try exponential here, and it's still only about a 2. So let's try polynomial. Order 2. Oh, that's much better. Very clearly a much better option. And we know how to work with a quadratic, so that's okay. And just like before, we're going to highlight this and see if we can manipulate Control-C to copy. And I'll come over here to a cell. Let's see if it'll let me paste directly into it. Nope. Okay, so we're going to do, oh, because it's merged. That's why. So we're going to come over here, copy, and just paste it into a regular cell, and then that'll let us paste it into our answer cell. I should have been watching. Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste, and now because I'm here, I'm going to Control-Copy here, Control-V for paste, and we found a workaround so we don't have to write that out. I'm going to delete that as well. Okay, again, these numbers will not match yours because, and I'm going to change this because I've changed my numbers for the chart here. You can see right here that it says X and 2, and that's confusing. So what I'm going to do is X and do Shift 6 for the caret, and that shows that it should be in the exponent. Over here you can see it is in the exponent, but the formatting difference didn't copy over. If you wanted to do an exponent, I think you could, but let's not worry about it. Let's just go with the formatting of squared because that's how we calculate anyway. So I'm going to, again, we'll copy that in just a minute. Next, it says, Juanita is thinking of going on vacation in either April or September. She wants to predict how many cars will be sold nationwide in April and September of this year. Because April was month 2 and September was month 7, she found the predicted value for months 2 and 7. Now, it's very tempting to come up here to say, well, 2 gives us the number of cars here, and 7 gives us the number of cars here. Unfortunately, though, this was last year, and we're using our predicted line, the trend line we just did, to predict next year. And it won't be the exact number, so we need to use the trend line, insert the 2 and the 7 for our X value here, and calculate the predicted cars for next year. So again, I'm going to copy this by pressing Control C, click into my next box and press Control V to paste, and then I'm going to get rid of Y because I want it to actually calculate. When it starts with equals, it will calculate. There is nothing in between here and X, and Excel needs to be told to multiply. And then I'm going to delete the X and replace it with my input, which is 2. So we're going to put a 2 here. And don't forget, in a quadratic, we actually have 2 places we need to substitute that 2. And I need to make sure Excel multiplies that. I'm going to double check and make sure everything in here in the formatting is correct. I know that number is correct because I copied and pasted it. I changed the X to a 2, made sure it was squared for Excel to calculate. This number is good because it's copied. Times 2, I told it to multiply. I kept the same number for the month, and that number is good. So I can press enter, and that gives me the predicted value of number of cars sold in April for the next year. Now again, we're going to copy and paste this again. Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and get rid of the Y so that it will calculate. Again, we're going to delete the X and multiply by, in this case, our input will be 7. And then we need to put it over here for this X, multiply by 7. Make sure everything looks good. Excellent. Press enter, and that gives me the predicted number of cars sold for September. The next question says, I'm going to go ahead and go with answering some of this in number 4. The vertex of the parabola shows Juanita the month of the lowest car sales. Use the formula x equals negative b over 2a, which is what we talked about previously in finding the vertex of a parabola, to find the x-coordinate of the vertex of the parabola. Use the table on the right to see which month corresponds to the x-coordinate of the vertex. Then we'll answer, when should Juanita take her vacation? Remember, the vertex is the very highest or very lowest point of a parabola. It should occur about right here. We can see that it'll be probably at the end of 5, which will be the end of July. We'll see. And she wants to go when the very least amount of cars are being sold, and that's why we're looking at the bottom of the vertex. So we're going to use our x equals negative b over 2a from our trend line here. Now remember, the standard form of a quadratic is y equals a x squared plus b times x plus c. So we're looking for the number right here before the x squared, and again before the x for b. So we're going to take this negative b, right here is b. Oops, I want to highlight all of it. And I'm going to press Control C to copy, and I'm going to type it in here, Control V to paste. That is b. And because I want negative b, negative times a negative is positive. So I'm going to just get rid of that negative sign right off the bat. And I'm going to put x equals so that I know I'm working with this right here. Then I want to divide this by 2 times a. And I want to put both of those in parentheses down below so that all of that stays in the denominator of the problem. And then A was given up here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this as well and just press Control C to avoid any typos. And then Control V and close the parenthesis. Now that will give us the X value. Because we're in a text box here, it's not going to calculate it for us. And instead of trying to type that into a calculator and maybe make some typos, I'm just going to highlight this and pick a random cell outside here, press Control V and paste, and because I've highlighted the equal sign in here, it's going to take all of that and just calculate it for me, so I don't even have to worry about typing, which gives us 5.4. We'll put equals 5. Let's do 4.1. So that tells me it is month 5 and not quite halfway. So about mid-July, right? We'll type mid-July for the answer. Again, your numbers are not going to coordinate with mine because I've changed the numbers in the chart. Evaluate your reasoning. I'm going to let your group go ahead on that one as well.